Hello and welcome to BloombergQuint. One of the headliners of this budget has been that India will get a new development finance institution. If you had been watching Vinayak Chatterjee's tweets and if you watched his conversation with us here on BloombergQuint a few weeks ago, you probably already knew that. So we have Vinayak Chatterjee back with us. Mr. Chatterjee, thanks for your time. On your behalf, I'll say you told us so. So this is good in that sense.
Sorry, your question again, Ira?
I was giving you a "I told you so" moment because you told us.
Thank you. You know, the news it's historic that this country gets a new DFI, something you and I had discussed. And the logic for that was very clear. That was discussed in the earlier interview. So at a personal level, as well as for the country and the infrastructure sector, I am so happy that the government has received the suggestion and the advocacy that we've been doing for a few years. And we now have a formal announcement in the budget of a new DFI and a bill in Parliament soon to create it under a new Act of Parliament. So that's really one of the biggest highlights of this budget. It's an historic announcement.
Vinayak, a couple of specific questions. The first one being that the initial capital outlay is not as large as, say, the 1 lakh crore that was being anticipated. Why is that? Is that because they only expect for it to ramp up predictably over a 3-year period?
Correct. You know, the first year allocation is 20,000 crores. Right? Now, by the time this institution gets into action, it will probably be Q3. It will take 6 months to pass the act, set the organization, etc. So I think this is just the year for setting up the institution. And even in this year, they have allocated 20,000 crores, which is large. It's a large amount to kickstart an institution. And with 20,000 and leveraging, the FM expects it to do 5 lakh crores of disbursements for the next 3 years. I suspect that under an Act of Parliament, like the IDBI in the old days, each budget session will see a certain incremental addition to the capital pool. So to my mind, this is just the startup. This is just the beginning.
Okay. And Vinayak, you have enough confidence that on this capital base, they will be able to get the money that they need to actually fund that large pipeline. I ask because will the government be left holding the baby in the end if we don't get enough participation from the outside?
You mean, will we be able to raise 5 lakh crores?
Yes.
You know, Ira, I told you in the earlier show that for one project, the bullet train, the country was able to raise 1 lakh crores. So for a national 100% sovereign-backed institution to not be able to lay 5 or 10 lakh crores, I would even go to 10 lakh crores. It shouldn't be difficult at all. I am very confident that with this government's foreign policy outreach, the vision of what it wants to do with infra development in India, the world is flush with cheap developmental capital. I don't think it will be a particularly difficult task to raise the capital.
And this would be entirely 100% government guaranteed, Vinayak. Could you very briefly, I know it's a complex subject, but will it be any different from what IDBI was or ICCI was back in the day?
I really can't answer that question because as the FM said, there is a detailed bill which will be placed before Parliament. And I think all of us should look forward to these kind of details once the bill is in public domain.
Okay. Would you be able to give us a sense of, and again, this is on past experience, the planning on which projects to fund, etc. That becomes an essentially political decision because this is then national projects of importance to national sort of infrastructure and development.
No. It should not be Nehru's decision to set up in Nehruvian times, Bhakra Nangal, Damodar Valley Corporation, were not political decisions. They were decisions made by politicians, but with very clear economic intent. So I think the big distinction that I would like to draw as to why a DFI is relevant, because a large swath of public works programs in areas like railroads in remote areas, like major irrigation projects, these are not projects which can be funded by private capital that looks at a private rate of return on the capital deployed. These are projects which have great benefit to the nation, and the simple way to describe it is that their economic return is much higher than their financial return. So this board of this new DFI is expected to be professionally run with a mix of professionals as well as independent directors. That's our expectation. And the fact is that projects will be chosen based on the national need, the multiplier effect, and obviously detailed calculations of externalities and cost benefit analysis so that they pass the test of being economically viable. So, but that is how this DFI will be different from others. That it will not necessarily look at 18 or 20% IRR return that equity investors typically look at, even if they're PE funds investing in infrastructure. That will define this institution, that we pick up projects of national importance for national development, which have high economic return, which have high multipliers, but may not necessarily have conventional financial returns. These projects break even or start giving national returns from year 15, year 20, year 25, and they remain as an asset to the country for the next 200 years or 300 years. That's the perspective.
Okay, Vinayak, last question. As someone who knows how government works, I mean all governments, not just this government, but all Indian governments, realistically, what is the time frame you think we will get a bill passed, an institution up and running, and some of this money starting to come into the pipeline? Because we do remember what happened with NIF, which was a fairly longish period that it took to set it up.
In my opinion, this one is very much on the fast track from what I understand from people in the bureaucracy involved with these things. This is very much on the fast track with the political blessings already there, with a big announcement in the budget and all of us talking about DFI. I understand informally that a draft bill is also ready, and as you know, the finance minister did specify in her budget speech that she will soon table a bill in parliament. So I think that this one is going to be really, really fast track, because if it isn't, the government will not fulfill its own ambition of funding the 20 lakh crores per annum national infrastructure pipeline. This institution is critical to meet the government's own agenda of 20 lakh crores per annum national infrastructure pipeline. So I think this will be fast track. And if you ask me to guess, I will be optimistic and say it should be up and running by Q3.
All right, Vinayak, thank you so much. We know we stole 15 minutes of your otherwise packed schedule, but appreciate your time here on BloombergQuint.
Thank you very much. And thank you for that earlier interview also. It all meshes in now.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching BloombergQuint.